Two will enter, one will win. Welcome to the fight. Welcome to the knockout.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Knockout. We are officially in round two. Round one was a lot of fun, even if it wasn't a lot of luck for me. I had a grand total of 3 wins out of, what was it? Like 12, anyway, 3 wins. You know, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Captain America were my winners. I was lucky. But round 2 is here, and we are going up against my friend, Southern Comic Geek, who won with X-Men Team Gold. And so I'll bring in Southern here, and he can explain why he picked Bishop, and we can get started. So here we go. Welcome to the show, Southern. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I picked Bishop from the X-Men Team Gold because are we doing our stuff yet, or I'm just like preliminary stuff?
Just maybe just very, very simple. Like, why'd you pick Bishop, not why he would win?
I thought that Bishop would be the easiest chance for Spider-Man maybe to ink out a win. So in all fairness to Matt, I said, well, I'm going to just do Bishop because he was the one that I felt like Spider-Man might catch asleep and be able to beat him. Other than that, he can't. But I mean, the rest of them, what do you do, right? Storm shoots him with lightning. I mean, it's over with, right? So that's where I went with Bishop.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate your willingness to trim down and pick a team and not trying to totally blow me out of the water, even though we all know Spider-Man would win against whoever you had, just because, So we all know how this goes. You get to go first in the opening statement. I will go, and then we will get down in the mud and win. But before I do, I just dropped the link here to the straw poll. We will vote on the winner. So you guys can vote now if your mind is made up, or if you want to play fairly to the very end and listen to an argument before you vote, that's fine too. But the link is there for you guys to vote whenever you're ready. So take it away, Southern. Why do you think the X-Men Bishop would win?
Well, one, I want to go ahead and encourage anybody that's watching this live. First off, thank you for taking the time out of your evening to watch this live. It's going to not be a slugfest. It's going to be a snooze fest because Bishop is going to take it hands down, KO, and he's going to win. But you can go ahead and vote for him in the straw poll now and get it over with because it's a foregone conclusion. Bishop is certainly a viable member of the X-Men team, and he is certainly more than capable of taking down a little spider. I mean, this guy lived in the future, dealt with the horrors of the future. That's why he's got a big tattoo of an M. It's not just because he wanted to be cool, but it was because it was branded on him. I mean, this guy went through hardship. Spider-Man, nothing. Plus, Spider-Man's little moral compass is going to keep him from doing anything serious to Bishop. Bishop's not a soldier of war. He's going to take advantage of that and take him down.
I see. Nothing happened to him. I got 2 words for you, Uncle Ben. So, all right. Well, my opponent brings up, Bishop for the future and hardship, and I do acknowledge that, but that's not the if, ands, or buts of this argument. Spider-Man here wins because of 4 things: the physical aspects of Spider-Man, his strength, endurance, his reflexes, his speed. He is superhuman. He has the proportional strength of a spider, according to Stanley, just naturally stronger and tougher. Not to mention he can handle radiation, and things like that, and not really kill him. Second of all, Spider-Man, or or Peter Parker, because they're both one and the same, has a very genius intelligence, and you might be the strongest, toughest, badass person there is out there, but you can still be outsmarted. All you need is one right plan to work, and if you can outthink your opponent, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you can be brought down. Plenty of people in history have bitten off more than they can chew because they weren't smart enough to close the deal. Third, he has a little, that could have been bundled with the first argument, but I felt it deserved its own argument in itself. He has a little thing called a spider sense and all the benefit that entails. And fourth and finally, unlike other heroes like Superman and Namor and all that, Spider-Man has no real weaknesses, no rock that's going to bring him down, no separation from a hammer and he turns back into the mortal half like with Thor. Spider-Man has no real weakness. He has to beat him at his strengths or figure out a way past his strengths to win. So that's my 4 reasons of why Spider-Man would beat Bishop in a fight. So what do you think, Southern?
While all of those in the mind of a Spider-Man fan are certainly valid points, outside of that, in the normal world, Spider-Man doesn't stand a chance. I mentioned the fact that from a child, Bishop has been trained in the art of warfare. Bishop is a warrior at heart. Think about the fact that he was willing to go toe-to-toe with Cable across timelines to try to kill Hope Summers because he felt like Hope was the reason that the future would turn out the way his did. So he's willing to kill a child. So a little bit guy in a spider suit is not going to stop him from blowing a hole through this guy's chest. Also, I will recall to your mind, anybody who grew up in the 90s remembers the Onslaught deal. Okay, that was how Marvel kind of revamped the heroes and all that other kind of stuff. So Onslaught, the power of Magneto and the power of Professor Xavier combined into something that didn't have any. Well, that's true. But yeah, so I mean, if Power Magneto and Professor Xavier combined without the moral compass was going to destroy the whole universe, and certainly the heroes had to sacrifice themselves in order to make that happen. So when Onslaught confronted the X-Men while still in the form of Professor Xavier, he was going to blast the X-Men into smithereens. Who was it that jumped in front of the X-Men to take the blast and was able to take it like a man and still live to tell the tale? That was Bishop, because one of his main power senses, aside from his warrior sense, aside from his ability to use big guns and all that kind of stuff, is any blast. You mentioned radiation earlier, radiation, you'd be like, radiation is radiation. It doesn't matter, because that's his power set that he was born with. And he was able to take that blast from Onslaught, and still able to live to tell the tale and saved all the X-Men.
Well, yeah. One of his greatest asset, I will agree, is his ability to absorb energy and all that. Mm-hmm. But that's also his biggest weakness too. Okay. A little thing called overloading. You try and store the power of a lightning bolt onto a AA battery and just see how well that holds.
And he's done that multiple times with Storm charging him up.
Yeah, but like I said, go back to the very beginning. My second point: Spider-Man and his genius intellect. He might notice someone ciphering off energy for a power up and think, that nothing can hold an infinite amount of power. Eventually, you will reach your limit, and he's going to explode, and all that. So all he has to do again is to basically feed him the energy, making him stronger in the meantime. But he can overload him. He can fight off. Like I said, he has his spider sense. He can maneuver and jump around him. Like Infinity War.
Will not take the risk of killing another individual, especially one deemed to be a hero. He won't even kill a villain. He's not going to do what it takes to take Bishop down, whereas Bishop does not care.
No, they didn't say that he could kill. And how does he know? He has no idea that it would kill him anyway. It might be like a explosion of power and he's left with nothing. He doesn't know that it would kill him.
Well, I thought he was a genius, so he should know this.
Oh yeah, if he's not inside of his head. But anyway, he can still attack, he can still go toe to toe even with all that power. He outsmarted and defeated, Venom, which is basically Spider-Man himself, but without the ability of his spider sense. He faced Rhino, which is Rhino and Juggernaut, and both Green and the Red Goblin. Red Goblin has all the strengths and none of the weaknesses. So how do you fight an opponent who has?
He's willing to battle to the stalemate, but he's not willing to win the fight. So, good example that you mentioned yourself, Venom. Why is it that a homicidal maniac is allowed to roam an island back in the ASM 300 plus days? Why was he allowed to roam an island? Why was he allowed to continue to go? Because Spider-Man didn't have the you-know-whats to do anything about it. Why was Cletus Cassidy not stopped earlier than what he was stopped in Absolute Carnage, but put in a jail cell instead? Why? Because Spider-Man doesn't have the you-know-whats. Bishop does not have that compass that keeps him from going the next step and killing the guy if that's what's going to get in his way from completing his mission. So as much as we honor Spider-Man certainly for being a moral high ground type character, we understand that outside of Star Wars 3, the high ground does not win battles.
Yeah, but the argument here is also the winner is not the last guy standing. The winner here is the guy who wins. You don't have to.
That was a moral argument? I thought you win, you lose. What is this? I'm winning because
says the person dismissed Uncle Ben's death. Nothing happened to Spider-Man. Nothing happened to Spider-Man.
Yeah, he lost his uncle, okay? I mean, here's a guy who they say is a genius intellect, but he gave up his hot redhead wife for a woman that was about to die anyway. How's that genius?
Yeah, that was a drinking day. He fell off the wagon that day,
He fell off the wagon, man. He can't be a genius if that's the case.
Yeah, but anyway, like I said, even if he did, his spider sense, he can still outfight him, on all that. It's kind of hard to hit Spider-Man. Very few people can ever actually overcome his spider sense and defeat him and all that. It's very hard to hit someone who can sense a second before something happens. And so Bishop can absorb all the power he wants. Storm can hit him with as much lightning as she pleases. But if all he does is miss, all it is depleting that energy, and he's left with nothing again. And before he can recharge, there he goes.
So the Peter Tingle or the spider sense, whatever we call it, is not 100% from that because, and the reason why I say that is because if that was the case, then Doc Ock would never lay a hand on him, any one of his hands.
Well, that was different, though. That was a different case because he had been. Spider-Man has no true weakness. He has, just like if I get up for work very hard. At the end of the day, I'm slightly dulled in my reflexes because I'm exhausted.
Right.
Same thing as he can be tired out. There is something there that can wear his extra, spider sensibility down. To where he would be, and that's how he was vulnerable to Doc Ock's attack. But then again, I basically explained that away when he can go toe to toe with Venom, who's because he was bonded with the symbiote, the spider sense doesn't go off when he's facing Venom. So therefore, he doesn't need, and he proves that he doesn't need the spider sense to defeat someone. So therefore, when it's toe to toe against Bishop, it's only a bonus added to the fight.
So basically, what you're telling me is that Bishop, to win against Spider-Man, all he has to do is bond with the Venom symbiote, and he's Spidey's toast. So I understand the fact that he wears down, and that's exactly what Bishop would do, would wear him down to the point to where Spidey's trying to go toe to toe like he went with Juggernaut. But this is a losing proposition. One, because Bishop is more limber or more dexterous than what the Juggernaut is able to do. And I will point out that the chat has brought up a valid point, and I present to you Exhibit A from Not Near Mint. Just saying.
Man. Older men lose to young men. Yeah, so I don't know. He lost an arm, but yeah, I mean that's what I don't know. Ask Bishop why you lose limbs. War has a tendency to do that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, like I said, he can still even one-handed, he can still have the reflexes needed to do that. He doesn't need it.
Well, I will point to answer against that. I would point back to Marvel 2, which is where Mayday Parker hails from. And in that timeline, Spidey lost his leg. Why?
It was a knockout brawl that went on for a long time against the Green Goblin, another super powered, endurance enhanced person. Yes.
So what is Bishop? So Spidey loses his leg. He's not able to do it. And as a matter of fact, when Norman's son Normie attacks in the Green Goblin costume, if you recall that battle, he couldn't handle it. It had to be the younger Mayday Parker to come and save the day, right? So I will point that out. Also, additionally, when the Spider-Verse happened and Moreland and all those folks came through, what happened?
He overcame. He found a way to defeat the person.
It was Quaintance. It was
what?
It was Quaintance. He took him down with him. He committed suicide, essentially. What the good is that?
I don't recall him committing suicide. He might have pumped himself full of radiation, but he could survive that.
Well, essentially, I think it was a blast in the house, right? Mary Jane escapes, and they escape with Ben Parker, who was a baby at that time.
Well, yeah. Luckily, I just read that episode. Yeah, but yeah, that was like I said, an older Spider-Man who had not been fighting, every single day day in and day out. He had been retired for, I'm guessing, 20 years based on for the storyline. He's rusty, he's older, and he does have a missing limb. That we'll throw you that in for that argument. That he does have a missing limb that he has not gone into combat with day in and day out, so he's not used to it, fighting with it, and so it's kind of hard to learn on the job. Plus, those immortal beings it's a tough fight that only can be beaten by a certain way.
Yeah, and so let's go back to younger Spidey. Moreland has beat Spidey to a bloody pulp multiple times, and so, yeah. So, and let me tell you something. And if nothing else wins besides innate mutant power, war, chiseled, hardened, battle prowessness, if that doesn't win the day, Bishop's mullet, hands down, wins over Spidey every day.
And like I told you on Instagram, this isn't the 80s, and hairspray is not going to save you in this fight.
His mullet.
I win.
He's got the way better hairdo. I mean, what other superhero travels through time after Trevor Fitzroy and shows up in his first appearance in Uncanny X-Men 282, which is why do they call that a first appearance as opposed to Incredible 180 being Wolverine's first appearance? But I digress. He shows up, and what's he got? He looks like he just stepped out of the salon. I mean, that hair is killer, dude. Mullet.
Too bad he can't use it to, whip it back and forth and win a fight.
How do you know? How do you know he can't?
Well, like I said, all Bishop is a guy who can absorb radiation.
Oh, that's all.
Absorb energy to get it out, and slightly, enhance strength and endurance. Otherwise, take out the gun. If Spider-Man can take out the gun, which he would try to do anyway, because that gun could kill innocent bystanders. Because, like I said, sense of morality, kind of thing. He wins that argument about that. So he try and take out that gun because he wouldn't want other people getting hurt. And then when that gun is taken out, it's a fist fight against fist fight. And who would win that fight? The guy with the extra sense who can see the punch or sense the punch coming because he knows danger.
The guy that as soon as he punches him and Bishop grabs his hand, Bishop blasts his hand off of his arm.
Like he wouldn't see that though, or wouldn't sense that. He'd know that I better pull my hand back. Something bad's gonna happen if I do that move.
You said he wears out. Once he's wore out, Bishop grabs his hand because he's moving slower than normal.
Bishop would wear out too. Both of them start in their peak and wear out as the fight goes. Bishop's not immune to wearing down, just like Spider-Man isn't. You know,
Bishop's also older, and Spider-Man's also younger.
Yeah, listen to the missus. She's smart.
Hey, wait a minute. We're not. Is this a witness on the witness stand, Your Honor? I did not approve of this.
This isn't a witness. This is a crashing the courtroom.
Well, while it is true, Lewis, it is true that bugs do survive. If you do recall, Cable meeting the cockroach people. I don't know that I would want to brag about that.
He's called a bug all the time, you know. So I was like, yeah, you'd win.
A sense of humor until Bishop says, "I'm tired of this blankety blank," and he shoots him.
Again, jumps out of the way. You know, we got the Avengers Infinity War where he's jumping through portals, kicking Thanos, and for the first few punches until he finally gets smart about where he's coming from because the idiot kept on speaking out loud before he did the attack.
Right.
But besides that, I know.
Spidey wins.
Well, you heard it. The wife has spoken. Game over. Spidey wins.
For the record, are we allowing wives to vote in the straw poll?
You're welcome to have yours vote.
Okay, well, I'm just saying. I mean, I have more kids than you. Let me go get my kids to vote in this straw poll.
No, that's where you get to draw the line. You don't get to do that.
Now we're making up rules as we go along. What's going on?
The missus can vote, not the yes, daddy, I want to be grounded kids.
Yes, Dad, vote for Bishop. Otherwise, Matt wins, and then nobody likes it, right? Okay.
But besides his ability to absorb the energy, whatever, to blast at Spider-Man, what exactly does Bishop have to offer besides, yes, being a little more highly, he grew up in a very bad neighborhood, very bad time. He knows how to fight just slightly better than the average person in the modern day when he went back in time. But anyone can learn how to fight. You know, Batman knows every single form of martial arts there is and all that, but he can still kick the superpower butts out of people. How does
Batman could beat Spider-Man?
Who knows? I haven't read that story, that crossover, but most likely Batman always seems to win. So
Batman did go against the Hulk back in the day.
Yeah, Batman's kind of like a superpowered cockroach that can't die and can't lose.
Right. I got you. Okay.
But anyway, other than slightly knowing how to fight and a futuristic, ability to absorb power to shoot, I don't see anything about Bishop that would beat Spider-Man's natural physical, nothing added but the spandex on his body suit. He doesn't need anything extra to win.
I mean, he's got powers that he got from radiated matter.
But he doesn't need to be, he doesn't need to absorb a lightning strike from Storm to be able to shoot energy at someone. He doesn't need a power up. He is the power.
Okay.
So how's Bishop supposed to react by himself if Spider-Man gets him in some place where there's no power and he has no backup? He has a finite resources in his body and then nothing else. He basically has a leak in the gas tank, and he has to end the fight sooner rather than later. In which case, Spider-Man wins if this is another thing that's drawn out. Spider-Man doesn't have to rely on the power like that.
You sure?
Yeah.
Spider-Man wears out. You didn't say that a while ago.
And so does Bishop at the same pace Spider-Man does.
Oh, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you think that he would wear out at the same pace when he's a battle-hardened warrior?
Because Spider-Man might not grew up in the war zone, but Spider-Man himself still goes day in and day out. He fights superpowered villains all the time, goes toe-to-toe with them, and still outsmarts them. Like I said, this is a battle not just of fists, but of brains. Bishop might be the war-minded, but Spider-Man himself is not just war-minded. He is he's not war-minded, but he's ability to outthink. Bishop is more focused in on just what he knows. As far Spider-Man can outthink him because he can think of something that Bishop can't.
Well, you can only think so much, and the best laid plans of mice and men, or arachnids in this particular case, can be laid to waste in the heat of battle. And in the heat of battle, when you have a man sitting there blast at you, and no holds barred, has the glorious mullet that he starts flapping around like Fabio. I mean, it's over with, man. It's over with. Before it began, might I add. Yeah.
I would like to point out to the judge down below that I did not ask the witness to come in there. She barged in. The missus does what she wants. So overruled.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
that's right. And may prejudice the audience. So it must be stricken from the record, Your Honor.
I'll think about it. Overruled to you too.
Yeah, I know, right?
I dropped the link, so I think we pretty much ran out of everything we were talking about. So why don't I drop the link here? Everyone go and vote on who would win this fight, Bishop or the Amazing Spider-Man, since he actually is good enough to deserve an adjective in his name. And while we're doing that, you want to make your closing argument, Southern?
Yeah, I will. I feel like that the reason why, and I mentioned this earlier, that I picked Bishop because he was the lesser of the X-Men Gold to give Spider-Man an actual fighting chance. Not that I felt like he had one, but it would be better than being blasted, as I alluded to earlier, by a Storm Bolt or pulled apart by Colossus, so on and so forth. So, but when rubber meets the road, Bishop is going to win the day. Experience is always the best teacher. And when it comes to living in uncertain times and battle prowessness, Bishop certainly has the hands up, and he doesn't have the handcuffs on. And because of Spidey's moral code, he's going to hold back from, completing the 1-2 punch. And Bishop's going to take advantage of that, as any battle general is taught to do.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say thank everyone for coming here and watching. But for a closing argument, I would just address his whole thing about Spider-Man's moral code. No one said that they were fighting to kill here, and Spider-Man is more than powerful enough to go toe to toe and fight and beat Bishop and all that. You don't need a moral code to win the fight. You need to just be able to win it. Spider-Man has the speed, the strength, the endurance, the flexibility to go toe-to-toe with other superpowered charged up beings, which is exactly what Bishop is. His intellect and his smarts allows him to overcome so many people. He's defeated people like Venom, who, because of the symbiote connected to him, renders Spider-Man's spider sense, useless because it doesn't do it. But he's gone up against Juggernaut, someone who can't be stopped. Gone up against people like the Red Goblin, who had no weaknesses after bonding with Carnage. He's defeated Sandman, who can literally change the density. How do you defeat someone who can literally, you punch right through them, or you punch and break your hand because he changed the density of his body? But he still figured out a way to defeat him. Simple vacuum in that case. His spider sense warns him of danger the split second before he needs to do something happens to overcome it. Is it always 100% reliable? No, it's not. It's not like it's, look to your right, there's someone going to punch you. But he knows if he's already in the fight and he's already wired to look for danger, he's going to be able, it's going to be more likely to look around and see what's happening or know what's happening to avoid it. And fourth, he had no real weaknesses. He can't, be stopped by a rock or things like that, like Superman can. You basically have to beat Spider-Man down to beat him. You can't cheat, so Bishop might have grown up in a harder time and be the best. I argument about the best case, one of the best fighters to go up against Spider-Man, because when he grew up in war, he's a lot more warrior-minded than the other X-Men are. But ultimately, I think that Spider-Man will win, pure and simple, just because he has what it takes. He knows how to fight, and he won't give up. So I rest my case in that. So thank you very much for joining me. We'll give everyone else a few, minute or two to go and vote if they haven't before we look up at the results. So
my question, not that I shouldn't win, but provided I do win,
mhm.
Do I have to use Bishop every time?
Since that's the one you chose, yes.
Oh, wait a minute. Now you tell me this. Well, if I had known that, I would have picked Storm and said, toast your Spidey butt,
I didn't think it was that difficult to understand.
Gold. So, I should be able to pick from that whole roster.
Well, then I guess you can take it up with your opponent, whoever wins Batman or Thor. So I will leave. Since you had a team, I will leave it up to, Superpower Review or Lady Fantastic to decide who goes up against who you go up against. So if they're
or Storm,
yeah,
that would be a good matchup.
Yeah, Lord of Sparkles versus Lady of Sparkles. Yeah, bunch of lightning blasts going back and forth.
I know, right?
But if they're open to changing it up or whatever to suiting the best person possible, I have no problem with it. Since if I lose today, I'm out of the competition. I'm just a host now, or everyone else gets to argue. So I think we had enough time. What do we think? Oh, let's see. I'm pretty sure Stan Lee was alive to make an argument for Spidey. Only like, yep. Well, Stan Lee was still alive and he was arguing my case. Southern wouldn't win. All right, let's share the screen and see what the results are. Not that one. So by the looks of it, you won. I'm going to refresh the results. Yep. 12 votes for Bishop, 3 votes for Spider-Man, 80-20. Spider-Man lost.
So, in the effort of full disclosure, when you told me that anybody can vote, I did message straw polls out, right?
Yeah.
So you did make that clarification. So I just want the record to show that outside voting took place. So.
Oh yeah. And congratulations, you won by spreading out. Vote for me. So Bishop moves on to I think it'd be the semifinals and all that. So it'd be you against someone else. No, it'd be the quarterfinals. So whoever your opponent will be either Kevin from Superpower Review or Lady Fantastic, Batman, or Thor. So that is one of your opponents. So I will message both of them and all that, or actually I'll talk to them because the next matchup is on Tuesday, the 29th here. So if if the winner is open to you choosing from your roster of X-Men Team Gold to move forward, I'll let you. You have no problem with you choosing Storm or another person. So.
Well, and if they don't, we'll just roll with it, but
yeah. Well, I think you can make a case anyway, for either or with Bishop too. You got Batman, again, a guy who has no powers, and the guy who grew up in war versus a guy who can absorb, like you said, what Thor.
I'll tell you, when I was making the argument, or I think maybe Rob Worst brought it up about losing limbs, and I was like, yeah. Well, it reminded me that Bishop lost his arm too. In Second Coming, I think it was, when he was going after Baby Summers, Baby Hope, that big monster bit his arm off, and I was like, oh, I hope he don't remember that, because then he'd be like, well, he did too, so what's the deal?
I remember when I was doing my research that I saw Bishop had the gun on his arm, part of his arm, so I knew he had lost an arm. But I didn't consider it relevant. A gun was a gun, whether it was attached to him or not, for me. So.
Yeah, just the fact that he was not quick enough to not lose it like I was making Spider-Man out to be. So
Yeah, no problem. But like I said, in a way, like I said, I'm bummed I can't move forward and argue more Spider-Man. But in a way, I'm not, I'm gonna say bummed, but I'm also look forward to this because now I can sit above it all and pose questions at you two, arguing, going, well, what about this, Southern? I looked a little more into Bishop in this comic here. This happened. How
you can egg it on.
Yeah.
Just directing, hey, well, what about this? Or have you thought about this? Or how do you answer with this? Kind of the lawyer against both sides.
Yeah, when it was Batman versus the Punisher, it was very hard to direct the argument where I wanted to because he kept on going the other way. But as a host, I can bring it back. Well, it's fine over there in that neighborhood, but I still want my question answered. What about this? So congratulations, thank you very much, Southern. I think you lied about that party on Monday so you can have an extra 2 days to study argument. And so I think you're just making up excuses to try and sneak it, win dirty, all that. So that's what I think.
I like when you're in college, you're like, man, I'm sick, I can't make it to this class, I'll just have to make the makeup exam, right?
Yeah. So I think you're playing dirty, like all that. So congratulations, I think. So yeah, no. So yeah, congratulations. So you'll be the first matchup against either, like I said, Kevin or Lady Fantastic, and whoever wins that argument and that fight. I think that it's going to be Lady Fantastic because she's pretty cutthroat. So I think you're going to be going up against Thor if I had to put money down on the argument.
I would think. I mean, even though I like Batman better, I mean, I'm just kind of objectively looking at it, kind of going.
Basically, it's Lady Fantastic versus Batman, or the popularity of Batman. So it could be either way here.
Yeah. I mean, people do vote for people they like as opposed to the argument itself. So
true. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Before I let you go, Southern, is there anything you want to promote or talk about while you got people on the rewind here?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a 600 subscriber giveaway that I haven't announced the details for yet, other than the fact that we're giving away a New Mutants 98, which is the first appearance of Deadpool. And it is a 9.4 CGC slab, as well as a Deadpool pop as a picture of his first appearance on